folks, and welcome to Garbage Theatre, our exciting conclusion to the Garbage Theatre Vomit Comet, whatever the shit it is we're doing. I'm your host, Chase, with my co-hosts, Blake and John.
I feel utterly disgusted after watching this.
We watched Street Trash for the finale of our special month. And yeah, this one was pretty gnarly.
It delivered. It really delivered.
Yeah.
You know, The Nest, I was like, oh yeah, this is what we were looking for. And it was like, with this one, I was like, oh, this is what it was supposed to be.
How can a movie that has the words body melt in the title have less melting than this movie?
Well,
That's one
they
for
had
the
their
ages.
shit together as far as melting.
They sure did. They sure did. Oh, man. Lots of melting.
Yeah. But before we get into the movie, I believe John has some things to add to the docket.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. So, a correction on something I said. I said this is like the original Melt movie or something, and that's not correct. But it is considered by a lot of people to be the best Melt movie. The Stuff, which we mentioned last time, came out before this. R.I.P. Larry Cohen, the director
I saw that.
of The Stuff.
I saw that this morning.
Anyway, so there's that. And also, following up on The Nest, I tried to figure out what a fish-a-whack is. And it's gonna continue to be a mystery forever. There's no information on what a fish-a-whack is on the internet that I can find.
Yeah, I've spent more than 5 minutes looking at that as well, and I couldn't find anything either.
It's crazy. Like, the only thing I could find, I found a kid's game in a swimming pool called Whack-A-Fish.
Correct.
And I found out about a Fish-A-Whack festival, but it's in New Jersey. And this movie was all filmed on the East Coast somewhere. Or the West Coast, excuse me. So, it couldn't...
Well, who cares? What's a fish-a-whack?
Well, the New Jersey Fish-A-Whack Festival, for one thing, it's not spelled that way. It's not fish-a-whack. It's one word. And it's a word for a river from the Lenape Native American people. So it's just the name of a river in New Jersey.
Well, shit.
So, again, we're stuck. We got nothing. Fish-A-Whack Festival is a mystery.
Wow.
Who the hell knows then?
Yeah. So that's kind of disappointing, but...
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
We're not going to have all the answers, folks. In fact, we're going to have very few answers.
Yeah.
So...
But that's it. That's what I got.
That's it. All right. To the main course. Street Trash. I mean, I know that this was, the hook of the movie, but was the melting liquor even necessary?
No, you could have offended just as many people without that.
This movie could have just been about the violent lives of street people.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a slice of life right here, this movie. It's a documentary, basically.
The strange melting alcohol is just kind of there in the background and doesn't really serve a purpose other than to get some kills, but...
Yeah, I thought it was going to be... I don't know, I thought this movie was going to be sort of a satire of some kind, or like a commentary, like the liquor represented something somehow, but I can't get a grasp on what it might be.
And look, I'm assuming being homeless isn't great. I've never been there before. I don't know if it's that fucking bad.
This is
grim. You could be melted at any moment by some random liquor you found.
Well, not only that, just like to have to deal with the...
You answer to this strange, dictatorship out of a junkyard.
Yeah, the junkyard
the politics of being homeless is just fucking terrible.
But you've got some pretty sweet subterranean dwellings that, something that you would find, Heathcliff living in.
Yeah. Yeah, the tire fort was pretty nice.
It was radical. That's something I'll probably be talking about throughout the movie is how actually, like, I was impressed by this movie. Like, they actually framed their shots and, like it was edited in a
coherent fashion.
And like the production design was there. Like, you really got a sense of place in this movie. So I was surprised by all the production elements being like pretty on point.
This movie was filled with surprises.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
Like some surprises are like, oh wow, this movie's very well put together, and other surprises like, you can't show that in a movie.
Apparently you can.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. All right, well, let's get into it. Street trash. We open to the sound of a garbage truck lumbering along as we pull up to a liquor/check cashing shop. A man takes out the trash, dumping it into the garbage can that some homeless man is adjacent. This hobo/ninja follows the man back inside, where the man blows a giant fart in the hobo's face. The hobo recoils in horror, giving himself away because he was so silent following him in there in the first place.
With the way they talk about how these guys smell, like it's a wonder he wasn't discovered sooner.
So what I went back and watched this a couple times because I couldn't decide who farted. Because the guy's reaction works both ways.
Yeah, you're right.
Like he suddenly heard it and both...
Or so either he heard it or like he let one slip and he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, gave himself away.
Yeah, so I came away like once again with this movie was like, well, I don't know.
At first,
so I guess it's up to your interpretation.
Yeah, it's like a Jackson Pollock painting.
But with farts.
It's not. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, it's not totally crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, it's probably what that hobo's underwear looked like anyway. A fucking
right.
Pollock painting.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Okay, so he grabs a bottle of booze and runs out the door. The shop owner pursues him, and the hobo narrowly avoids being hit by a car. The driver of the car loses control and slams into a parked car, whose doors are all unlocked in a jar, apparently, because they all just fly open on impact. The car just falls to pieces.
It's a safety feature.
Yeah, all the doors spring open and everybody gets ejected out to safety.
Yeah.
The driver gets out and joins the pursuit. Two other hobos are fighting over some scraps or dollar bills or something when hobo number one jumps down and snatches it from him before running off. The chase continues until the driver cuts off the hobo somehow. He gets in front of him. He's cornered by the driver and the other hobo demanding his money back. The fire escape ladder above suddenly drops down and the hobo's on the move again. The driver notes that the building's on fire as people are streaming out of the fire escape. The hobo dives into an open window to the surprise of a couple laying there banging each other. He tells them that the building's on fire and to run. As they do, bare-assed out the building.
And he slaps the girl on the ass on the way out.
That was so good. This chase was pretty spectacular, I thought.
So, in the middle of all of this, he grabs their stuff, their valuables from the dresser, runs out behind him. He flees the building and jumps onto the back of a passing garbage truck, into the bin, to avoid the driver and the other hobo. He takes a long victory swig of his booze as the compactor starts to drop. He leaps from the back of the truck, but narrowly avoiding being crushed, but he loses his booze and his money. Cut to the junkyard. Hobo number 2 walks among the ruined cars to find who I can only describe as the Emperor Hobo.
It's kind of hobo monarch.
Atop a junk car throne with this half-naked person laid across his lap.
So I saw this image, and I don't know what drove me to this, but like it reminded me of a sculpture I'd seen, Michelangelo's La Pieta. It's like I'm serious. It was so weird because, like, the way the body's draped across him, it's like the sculpture of Mary with Christ's body, like, across her lap.
Well, it all makes sense now.
I'm just, like, I was curious, if that was on purpose, because it really looked similar to me.
John pulling out the high art here.
I know.
I was going to say it looked like the smelliest Frank Frazetta painting I've ever seen. There's this smelly old Conan up there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're both good.
So, Hobo number 2 tells the Emperor Hobo that he lost the money, which only upsets the Emperor. Back with Hobo number 1, he's strolling down the street, greeting the other hobos. A more different liquor store owner searches in his basement for anything of value to sell, only to find a hidden crate in the wall.
This is insane. Like, how do you have, like, a hidden place that you never saw before in your own store?
It just happens to have the wares that you sell. It just happened to be a case of alcohol. Inside, he finds several bottles of a mysterious drink called Viper inside. He deduces that it must be 60 years old, and he can get $1 a bottle easy. So he takes the crate upstairs, only for Hobo number 1 to show up. They exchange banter, and the owner offers him a bottle of Viper for $1. Just then, a disabled man in a wheelchair rolls in and falls out.
You gotta get on board with the Americans with Disabilities Act, bro. The aisles ain't wide enough.
The commotion distracts the owner long enough for the hobo to pocket the bottle and leave.
I thought the guy in the wheelchair was trying to do that to like scam some money out of the guy.
Oh, like, yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Like, all I could think of was Coming to America, when the guy falls down the stairs and like, don't pull that falling down the stairs shit.
Yeah, Ezel and Friday. You know how much you can get for a slip and fall in the store?
Exactly. Like, that's what I thought they were going with, but it never came back.
But we can settle right now for $20.
Yeah. A 6-pack of Viper.
So meanwhile, elsewhere in the Hobotropolis, a gang of vagrants swarm an intersection to wipe their greasy rags on every windshield that they can.
This place is it's like owned by the homeless. Like, this is their town.
There's only one way to describe it, and it's bonkers.
Yeah. And all the homeless people are dressed like they're right out of Mad Max.
Totally.
Yeah. They're wearing like armor and crazy shit all over them.
Gas masks.
So the Hobo Emperor is overseeing the whole operation when he stops a car that stopped. He approaches it as the dork inside calms his frantic girlfriend and tries to relate to the Hobo Emperor by asking him if he's fired he's fired the machine guns that they used to use in Nam, because he's automatically assuming that all hobos are veterans. The Hobo Emperor grabs the dork by the collar and rips him from the car, and we get a fantastic dork vision shot where they put these thick frame glasses on the camera.
Yeah.
As he whirls through the air and smashes him through the windshield.
I was like, yo, Rick Moranis got messed up.
So the woman screams as her boyfriend...
Honey, I fucked up the windshield.
Oh, fantastic. John, you've got your next movie poster to do. Oh, Lord. So the woman screams as her boyfriend bleeds out into the car. Cut back to Hobo number 1, who I'm going to start calling him Freddy, because we eventually figure out his name's Freddy. Talking with yet another hobo named Paulie. He was the one who was fighting over the scraps with Hobo number 2 earlier, whose name is Wizzy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tells him that his money's gone, but Paulie doesn't seem to mind. Wizzy's over on the sidelines, staring on with a creepy grin. Paulie tells Freddy about his incontinence to get Freddy to turn away long enough so that he could pickpocket the Viper booze from Freddy's pocket. Paulie shuffles away when Freddy realizes he's been robbed Before he can act, he's jumped by Wizzy. Paulie then returns to his dilapidated hovel, where he settles in for a hooch break on the turlet.
Yes.
And I like how they set this whole thing up where he walks through the door just to show that the room has no walls.
Right.
That was fantastically done.
It was pretty good.
And I don't I really felt like I wanted to take up for the hobos at some of these points. Because I was like, this movie just assumes that all hobos are fucking idiots. But then I was like, well, maybe they're just drunk. But then I really think it was just showing that they're all idiots.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's not the case.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Certainly
But then, as I got further into this movie, I realized, no, it's just trying to make the most horrible movie possible. So,
So, Paulie takes a big swig and immediately starts to shake and convulse. He starts spraying blue liquid from seemingly everywhere and starts to scream and starts melting away. His ankles snap as he starts to slip into the bowl of the toilet. He reaches up for the pull handle flush, but his arm snaps off too. The camera dramatically rushing in to reveal just his melted face floating in the toilet, severed skeletal hand dangling from the chain.
I really appreciated this because I was like, I'm glad that they didn't drink the stuff and it took days to take effect. I'm glad it was just instant melt.
right away. This movie is not fucking around in
So
any
I really
regard.
appreciated that.
We're
Like,
not
I was
screwing
happy
around with
that.
phases or any of that shit. It just happens.
No.
Phase
That,
one is melt.
Yeah.
It goes straight past glandular and
So, back at the junkyard, a woman makes her way into some sort of makeshift house. She finds a sleeping man and growlingly starts clawing around on top of him. She scares him and he topples over on top of her. He tells her that he was having a dream about two dogs humping, so his brother told him to run, so he did, and then the dog started humping him. That's a dream, I guess.
That's about right.
I mean, it's as common as that one when you go to school and you realize you don't have any clothes. Everybody's had that dog humping dream before.
Yeah, of course. So he tells this girl, Wendy, about he and his brother used to have a home and trees and a street when a voice on some intercom yells out for Wendy. So she goes to Mr. Schneiser's office.
Yeah,
I didn't catch his name, so
I think that's right.
I'm going to call him Schneiser. And he grunts out some insults to her and tells her that, she tells him that her ass is staying in her chair and off of his lap. And he accuses her of running a daycare with all the runaway homeless kids that she's taking care of in the junkyard. And does she mean like all these adults everywhere? Because there's no children.
well, and if anybody's running a show, it's the fucking Rat King. Like, it's not her.
Yeah, I don't understand. So this guy owns the junkyard. Does he tolerate the homeless that live in it?
He's got signs everywhere that say no bums, bums get out.
And when he sees them out there, he's pretty derogatory to them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But he's got. But they're like on his property. There's a structure built out of tires.
Yeah, a hobo Camelot is in the middle of his goddamn junkyard.
I think that just there's nothing you can do, like, because it seems like the homeless problem in this city is just that bad. Like, they're just everywhere.
I mean, yeah. You gotta.
It's like somebody genetically made some hobos that would eat the other hobos, and they were supposed to die after one generation, and they didn't.
Lots of callbacks to this episode. If you didn't watch like the last 3 episodes, you're going to be lost on these.
You have no clue what I'm saying.
But I mean, that's like an impressive build. You know, he made a whole thing out of. They got everything in there. You know, they got like electricity and like jack off posters and like. So you have to like climb in through a car to get in there.
Yeah, like that reminded me of like Ready Player One, how he goes to his little VR machine in the car.
Yeah.
Like it was ahead of its time, we'll say.
Yeah,
Spielberg,
like I said,
Spielberg stealing his inspiration.
Oh God! So he says that On his time, she should be doing her job and not playing Florence Nightingale. Back with Freddy, his homeless pal Bert wakes him up wearing a gas mask, as you do when you're homeless. And he realizes that Paulie lifted his bottle of Viper. Freddy thinks that he can get another bottle, so back at the liquor store, another homeless man in this cast of thousands comes in and blathers on about, it was like this fucking Abbott and Costello routine, talking about what you think is what I think, and what I think doesn't really matter, because it's all about what you think, and I don't know what the fuck this guy was talking about. But he goes on to talk about how he lost everything, his wife, his kids, all on a bad bet. And he buys a bottle of Viper, and then he tells the liquor store owner to get a job and shambles out.
Now, I will say this. I found that dialogue to be expertly crafted.
Oh, that was some Tarantino shit right there.
Well, I'll tell you why. I work in downtown New Orleans. I've had that same conversation. And it ended the same way with go get a job. Like, sometimes you run into these bums out there, and that's how they talk. And
they're on their own wavelength.
Yeah, and you just got to sit there and take it.
Yeah.
Like, I have, after watching this, like, there's a huge homeless community not far from where I work. And so I started, like, paying attention since I watched this. And that's why I said it can't be as bad as what they're saying here. Because I see everybody laughing and joking around with each other. There's a few guys that I see on the regular, and some mornings they tell me good morning, other mornings I'm the fucking devil. So you kind of, I don't know what's going on there, but those are the types of conversations to be had.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was growing on me. Like, he became one of my favorite characters in the movie, I think. I thought it was funny.
Also, I don't want to, this will be the only bum story I interject, I guess. Like, me and some other coworkers walking to a restaurant down the street from our office. A woman, obviously homeless, walks out into the middle of traffic. Cars have to slam on their brakes, and she just walks, doesn't care, just walks across the street, and she's coming towards us standing on the curb. And so we're both kind of standing there in amazement, me and some coworkers, and she goes, "What the fuck you care? We all dead anyway."
Oh my God.
When she said that, I was like, I looked us out, I was like, well, I guess she's right. Like, so after that, it was like, do we just walk out in traffic now?
She's a street philosopher.
Like, but look, we all fucking dead anyway.
She's fucking going around Nietzschean on people.
Well, dude, and I mean, like, I'm not lying, like, cars slamming on their brakes to not hit this woman. Didn't even flinch.
So the lesson, folks, is when you're approached by a homeless person, always have a deep conversation with them, because you never know. They could be the head of the vagrant Politburo up there. Who the hell knows?
Or don't take any chances, because they have nothing to lose.
Oh, man.
They'll keep your head in for a bottle of Viper, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we?
It's about thinking what I think and not what you think. That's where we're at.
Yeah. So he shambles out and he shuffles down the street, and he comes across a scene of a crime where this is, I mean, I guess this is where Paulie melted? I don't know.
I'm assuming so.
I'm assuming. So he comes across here, and it's all taped off, and Officer Vigo the Carpathian grabs him and demands that he spill what he knows about Bronson, and who's the leader, turns out is Hobo Emperor, his name Bronson. And he's the leader. I don't know if I got this or not, because again there was no subtitles. But is it the Flatbush Fleetfoot Gang?
All I caught was Flatbush.
I don't know.
Isn't that the country club in Caddyshack?
It's another reference in there.
Yeah. So
Michelangelo, Caddyshack.
So Ghostbusters 2.
He lets the vagrant go, and he returns to his so-called condominium, aka fire escape. And he posts up and pulls out the bottle of Viper. He cheers to his stray cat and takes a drink. Instantly starts melting and just glopping down through the grating onto the passersby under him.
That's disgusting.
This guy in a suit walking by looks up and gets a face full of it and runs around the corner to the cop, and his face is just sloughing off of his skull. While the man is laying on the ground, slowly and painfully dying, the cop and some woman get into a heated argument about what she may or may not be packing under her dress.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This man is dying on the streets, and they're just trading one-liners. Back at the junkyard, Bronson is groping his trash lady on his trash throne while his minions look on.
This sucked.
This movie is gross.
It's really gross. Like, and you really feel it too. Like, everything is filthy, and like everything fits bad.
Yeah.
Like, this woman's underwear look like a diaper. They're just like,
yeah. I was itching just watching this whole scene.
Like, okay, you remember the toys? We used to have toys that purposefully smelled bad.
Oh yeah, stink orb.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This movie felt like those smelled.
This movie purposefully smelled bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just disgusting. Like just
everybody's sweaty
just
and dirty.
Disgusting.
Yeah. It must have smelled great on set.
Yeah.
Filming on locale in a junkyard.
But again, like, I mean, it really gets you there, you know? Like, the production design was on point. They did it. You know, they pulled it off.
Yeah. Ugh. So while he's groping this lady he's got, he spots Wendy walking across the junkyard and tosses his lady aside. She gets pissed at him for looking at Wendy, so she's mouthing off to him, so he punches her in the face to assert his dominance over the other tramps and hobos.
That's right.
He can't have her talking to him in front of, old boxcar Pete over here.
Don't talk to me like that in front of my men.
He really needs that respect of old Trash Shoes Magoo.
Like I said, none of these people have anything to lose. And if you show any weakness,
yeah,
they'll
walk right over you.
Yeah, anyone can challenge for leadership. It's like that gang in The Postman.
Nobody saw The Postman.
I'm just chuckling because I kind of get what you're talking about.
Yeah,
like I'm just picturing the people from Chronicles of Riddick. You keep what you kill. Like I'm assuming it's the same thing.
No, I'm going for those deep Kevin Costner references.
That Postman shit.
That 1998 Kevin Costner shit.
The only person who saw The Postman was that bitch who was just getting pawed on by the Emperor.
She snuck into it at the Dollar Theater.
So, Freddie...
That's not your first pick, is it, Chase? It's not The Postman, is it?
So, Freddie and Bert find Kevin and Wendy. Kevin is the kid that Wendy was with earlier, and Kevin is also Freddie's younger brother.
Right.
They go into their subterranean hideout, where they reminisce about the good old days, a.k.a. flinging insults at each other. Meanwhile, Bert, a fresh $3 in his pocket, goes to the local grocery store, and he picks up a receipt that a woman dropped on the ground. He's got a master plan with this receipt.
This man's a genius.
This whole sequence was spectacular.
Yeah, this is another one of those sequences that the longer it went on, the better it got.
Yeah, for sure.
He goes, I can't wait to get to the ending of it.
Yeah.
He goes into the grocery store and he just starts stuffing everything down his pants. Anything he can get. raw chicken, cans, whole cantaloupes,
racks of ribs.
He contemplates a watermelon at one point, but doesn't think it'll fit. So he's just putting all this food down his pants. After an altercation with an old lady, the things he says to this old lady.
It's what everybody wants to say to an old lady in a grocery store too. He's just saying what we're all thinking.
He calls this old woman a honky ass motherfucker. And it's the greatest thing ever. So she gets upset and says that she's going to go tell the manager on him that he's stealing. So he just, tells her to fuck off and just keeps on stealing.
He doesn't care at all.
He doesn't give a shit. One of the workers comes around with the old lady and confronts him. So he produces a receipt. He says, I already paid for all this food I've been stuffing in my pants. Bulletproof.
Yeah.
So the clerk takes the receipt and looks at it. The receipt is for dog food. So he says, well, I can't help it if the people running your cash registers don't know dog food from regular food.
I love
this dude's got a solid plan, man.
And he's so indignant when this guy just doesn't believe him. Even though it's the worst plan of all time.
Yeah. So the guy finally tells him that you need to leave or I'm getting security. So Bert gets super pissed, starts shuffling away. He's flinging things off the shelf, wrecking the store as he goes. He gets to the front. He takes a paper bag and puts it on his head and then just walks through a plate glass window.
Saying, watch this one now. Walks right through a glass.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
All I can think is, what kind of stats did that paper helm have on it for him to be able to walk through a wall?
It was so good, dude.
He just straight up walks through the window.
And then the shot of him leaving the store, his pants, just shit's falling out of his pants. There's a trail of stuff behind him.
It was fantastic.
It was so good.
Oh my god. Ooh. So after that, down at the morgue, Bill the cop, as he's credited, and the mortician examined the remains of Paulie. Then Jimmy the cop, as he's credited, a fan of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, this Mickey Mouse bullshit.
He comes in and gives the lowdown on Bronson. He says that he was a hitman back in Nam, and he sold drugs while he was there. And his signature weapon is a knife that he made out of a human femur. Which I noticed back in the car wash scene that he's just got a bone hanging from his belt.
Yeah.
And that's what that is.
For some reason, well, not for some reason, I know exactly what the reason is. When they said human femur, I immediately went to that scene in The Burbs when they find the bone in his yard.
Yeah.
He's like, that's a human femur, Ray. And they start screaming. That's a good movie, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved this scene because, so they're in the room with that melted body, but somehow the toilet chain with the hand on it is still, hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
It's hanging there in the shot. You're like, how did it get... What?
They mounted it
they
from
hung
the
it
ceiling.
back up. Trying to recreate the scene, I guess.
Yeah. and this morgue is in the storage room in the back of the police station. There's just boxes and shit stacked up everywhere.
And it's
that's the morgue they keep just for the hobos.
Take him to the junk morgue.
Yeah.
And it's a classic mortician move where he's eating his lunch next to a corpse or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
He's not grossed out by anything. So back at the dump, Bronson's regaling his men with stories of the war and what I believe is cannibalism.
Yeah.
There was a little touch of cannibalism in that story, wasn't there?
Yeah, a shade of it.
Yeah. Freddie, Kevin, and Bert share some of their homemade hooch with each other that Bert's been brewing for 5 years. They discuss Bill the cop being around, snooping around in the area. Bronson later is having a Nam flashback and wakes up when he's surrounded by what was actually some pretty haunting visuals for me. These people like climbing up to him with these like scary vampire faces. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is an actual nightmare.
The Vietnam
dogs
vampires.
humping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why all the veterans are so messed up, man. There's fucking vampires there.
Yeah. It's not just dogs humping each other. So he wakes up from this nightmare and just starts chucking grenades. And the grenades blowing up wake up Kevin, and he can't sleep with all this grenades and whatnot.
I mean, how is this kid supposed to get his GED with all these grenades going off?
So, meanwhile, Freddy returns to the liquor store to try to get more Viper. He comes across a woman throwing up.
Why does he want it so bad when he's never had it?
Because it's only $1.
Yeah, he just wants it because it's
That's it? Just because it's cheap?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
All right.
cheap.
Okay.
So, as he gets there, he comes across a woman throwing up in the alley. She's drunk. She mistakes him for somebody else and demands that he take her home so that they can do it. So Freddy plays along, and as the liquor store owner looks on from the alley, and he walks off with this woman, then this wise guy comes out of the club, and wouldn't you know who it is? Mm-hmm. There's an actual actor in this movie.
Yep.
How do you like that? Out of nowhere, Tony Darrow, a.k.a. Larry Boy Barisi from The Sopranos, and what's his name from Goodfellas?
I can't remember.
The club owner.
He was in there.
Yeah. He comes out, and he gives it to the doorman for not telling him that his woman stepped out with another man.
When he showed up in the movie, though, I immediately was like, okay, I need to contact this man to find out why the fuck he was in this movie. And that would have been exactly how I posed that question. Why in the fuck were you in that movie? Yeah. Why did you sing that song at the end of this fucking movie?
Oh, you gave it away.
Oh man, the song. Okay, we'll
so anyway,
the song.
So when I started looking him up, I found out he's actually went to jail because he's actually connected to the mafia. So I was like, nope, not contacting that guy.
Nope.
Yeah, I'd prefer to keep the podcast.
This was a fine film, and he did a fine job in it.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
he was great.
The one shining moment in this entire film was him.
So Freddy gets back to the junkyard with this woman, and she won't catch on to the fact that he's bringing her into a junkyard at all.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, look, I've been real drunk before.
Yeah.
But I never would mistake somebody for the wrong person, especially ones with like such different smells.
I was about to say, everybody talks about how bad all these people smell.
Yeah.
But like your sense of smell doesn't go away when you're drunk.
No, it does not.
He's wearing like burlap and an old prospector hat.
He doesn't look anything like the other gentleman. Like
he's got a full-faced beard.
The other guy is clean shaven. Like
yeah, and look, my last name's Otan. I've been pretty fucking drunk before, and I think if I went into a junkyard and opened up some car door and went inside the tire hut, I'd be like, hold on.
Yeah, like, this is a weird hotel.
This
like,
isn't where I'm supposed to be at all.
And unfortunately, it just goes from bad to worse for this poor woman.
Boy, does it.
Yeah. I'm going to call this the low point of the movie. This is the thing I could have done without.
As they're going in, the hobos just start, like, just seeping out of the woodworks to watch what's about to unfold. Word
spread pretty quick that Freddy's about to hot Cosby the chick in the tire hut.
So Freddy takes her into the quote-unquote house and kicks Kevin out. They get the deed done, and Freddy passes out on the floor. Now, the watching hobos just burst through the walls like zombies.
Yeah, Night of the Living Dead real fucking quick.
And just drag the poor half-naked woman out to presumably be raped over and over again by the entire horde of homeless people.
Yeah.
Not presumably.
Low
shit
point
happened.
Low point of the movie.
Yeah. Ugh.
Elsewhere, Wizzy gets picked up by the cops and talked into a paddy wagon full of prostitutes.
There was like one hooker in the back that was kind of in the shadows that looked just like Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror.
For some reason, this scene kind of endeared me to the Wizzy character, though. Because he was in the back of his van with a bunch of whores, and he was just himself, man. Just pissed himself, like he didn't give a fuck. Like, he don't have to impress anybody.
Yeah. So Bill's up front, and he grabs Wizzy and demands more information on Bronson. But Wizzy's not going to talk, so Bill does what is apparently punishment to these street people and cleans him up.
He was so upset, too.
He gave him a bath and nice clothes.
Wizzy wakes up the next day in the back of a car, and he's pristine. He's sparkling.
He cleans up nice.
And he looks pissed about it.
He looks like a respectable member of society.
I was expecting him to do, like, you know when you get your dog out the bathtub and they just start rubbing their face in the fucking ground because they can't, like, I thought that's what he was going to start doing.
He just runs full sprint and just leaps ragdoll onto the ground and slides through the gutter.
Just rolling around, getting filth back on him.
He jumps like a dolphin into a garbage big old dumpster or something.
They'll never let me back in the dump looking like this.
I'll be excommunicated.
So the next day at the junkyard, Schneiser is forcing himself on Wendy when he seemingly drops dead of a heart attack on top of her, pinning her underneath him. But he was just playing possum.
I don't think we've mentioned that he weighs 600 pounds.
Easy.
Yeah. So she's trapped under him, but he was just playing possum and wakes up. So she bashes him with a license plate and escapes. He patrols the junkyard, evicting the bums as he finds them. He complains of all the woes of his life when he spots the poor drunk girl naked, dead, face down on the shore of the river adjacent to the junkyard. And he gets a little look in his eye, and you thought we hit a low point of the movie.
Let's add some good old-fashioned necrophilia.
Yeah, you knew. I mean, you knew immediately. This is the movie you're dealing with.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Freddy gets jumped by Bronson when another bum starts taking a leak through the fence onto them.
Oh, my gosh.
So Bronson grabs the man by his parts and separates him from his most prized possession with his femur knife. And what plays out next is cinematic gold.
Yes.
As a slapstick game of keep away plays out with this poor man's member as it's shown flying through the air in slow-mo over and over again.
And people running in slow-mo trying to catch it like it's a football game. It's like fucking Rudy.
I couldn't help but think if I was in their position, I would have been playing too.
How often does a game of dick ball just break out?
I think I'd have been, I would have been all over it.
Oh my god.
Like, he can't get that back.
There's surf music in the background. He's screaming in a high-pitched voice. He's like, get that fucking thing on ice.
And I'd just be like, there ain't no way he's getting this thing back. I don't care if I gotta swallow it like a key. He ain't getting it back.
So, the man finally gets a hold of it and tries to hail a cab, but the cab doesn't stop for him. So he does the next logical thing and just latches onto the back of a school bus like a barnacle.
the kids just screaming. And
This
homeless man holding a severed dick is hanging on the back of the school bus. Oh my god.
Them kids will have a story to tell for the rest of their lives.
What's the frightening thing is that there's a school district in this town.
You gotta find another route. Gotta go around Bumtown.
So, back at the precinct, the news gets broken to Bill that they found a dead woman, and it's Nick Duran's girlfriend, the wise guy from before. So, Bill gets Nick in there and questions him and tells him to, let the police handle this. Don't take this to the streets. And the doorman, for some reason, is there with Nick, and he's running his mouth about Nick thinking that he likes to pretend that he's all mobbed up. And he just keeps insulting Nick to his face. And then the cop's like, I can't protect you 24/7. You have to leave with this guy at some point.
I love this. This doorman character is hilarious.
Yeah,
as soon as he thinks he's safe, he starts running his fucking mouth.
No, they call you Nick the Dick. That's what they call you.
He was fantastic.
Yeah. He was a good one.
Yeah, budget Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
So, back at the junkyard, a man with a gun and a really snappy blazer is snooping around. He meets up with Frankie in the bathroom and tells Frankie to say his prayers and pulls the gun on him. Frankie knocks him in the balls and runs outside. Bill happens to be there and runs into them while the man comes out, and he has Bill dead to rights.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his gun pointed at Bill's face. Bill does not have his gun out. He's got his hands up in the air. And Bill manages to appeal to the man's sense of honor and challenges him to a trial by combat or some shit.
He says, wouldn't you rather die in combat than rot in jail?
I'd rather not die at all and shoot you in the face and get away scot-free.
He's an absolute madman. Like, I've never seen a motherfucker want to fight so bad. Bill beats the shit out of the guy and drags him into the bathroom, tosses him on the ground, jams his finger down his throat, and vomits all over the guy's head. Throws up on him.
Like, Jesus.
That's the most gangster shit I've ever seen.
It was pretty, dude, he put his head in the urinal. Yeah. And I thought, okay, he put his head in the urinal, he's going to take a piss on him.
Yeah, you'd assume that's what's the next step, but
it never entered in my mind that there was something worse than pissing on the guy. And this dude straight up fucking goes bulimic on him and throws up on the back of his head.
Mama birds on him.
Yeah. And it was chunky.
Yeah. It was disgusting.
This movie is batshit crazy. So
he looks like he's got a diet like one of those Bear super fans on Saturday Night Live too.
As Bill leaves, he runs into Schneiser outside, and Schneiser's asking him what happened with that guy. And he says, don't worry about him, but he tells him that the girl that they found dead had layers of semen in her. Christ almighty.
It's like poetry.
And then Schneiser starts to get, a little hot, he's pulling at his collar, should I be worried about this? And so Bill tells him, well, don't worry. The last guy in her had syphilis. How can they tell who was... it's actually layered, like one of those goddamn jars of sand?
No, it's like a geological survey.
It's like the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you can tell, what dinosaurs came before the other ones.
Good God. So, as Bill drives away, he sees a limo parked on the corner and assumes that it's Nick, and of course it is. He pulls up and he tosses the hitman's...
in a town full of hobos, there's one limo. Who else could it be?
He pulls up, throws the hitman's gun in Nick's car, and tells him that he crossed the line. Nick drives off, And then Bill gets back out of his car and goes back into the junkyard. Freddy and Kevin are fighting about their lot in life, and Freddy storms off saying that he wants Kevin out of his life forever. Bill's searching the junkyard when he's jumped by Bronson, who buries his femur blade into Bill's back. Bill gets into an epic battle with Bronson, but Bronson eventually gets the upper hand and chokes Bill to death and then urinates all over him. So...
Which somehow seemed tame after what we had just seen.
I'll tell you something, Bronson. You better be glad that you won. Because it would have gotten nasty.
Well, his stomach's empty. I don't know what he would have done.
He'd have taken his shit on him.
I was about to say, yeah. You would have dropped the deuce on him.
So, okay, that's a wrap on Bill, apparently.
It really is just like a random, everything's random. You know, all the events.
So Freddy returns to the liquor store, buys yet another bottle of Viper, and heads out. As he leaves, it's shown that the crate of the Viper liquor is almost empty, so he's been selling quite a lot of Viper. And later, one of the larger hobos has his own bottle of Viper, and he's... adjacent to Freddy. He takes a big swig of it and immediately starts to burp and swell up. And the noise stops Freddy from drinking his Viper. Like, he gets so close to drinking it, but then he hears this commotion, goes around the corner. The man blows up like he just ate the blueberries from Willy Wonka.
Like Violet Beauregard in that chocolate factory.
He's one of Lopan's 3 storms.
So Freddy has to dive for his life as the man explodes in spectacular fashion.
Oh my god,
this was good.
Thumbs up on this effect.
Yeah, it was good.
Next level, man. Just like really, everything about it was great. It was really satisfying.
Visceral glop and gore just spray everywhere.
It's like the explosion is in slow-mo. The editing is really good too. Like Freddy dives behind the car just as all this like gore splashes over the hood.
Like, I like how we all picked up on that. This was a great freaking explosion of a body.
It was fantastic.
Like it held up to time too. Like that. It just looked good.
I love these old movies that do these practical effects, and they just look great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can talk shit about this entire movie, but the dick keep away and that explosion, like that's good shit.
It's just good stuff.
There's nothing like watching Red from that 70s show plow through a melting man in RoboCop.
True.
It's a fantastic sight to see.
It's just great.
Yeah. Dumbass.
So after this, Freddy looks down at the Viper and he immediately puts 2 and 2 together that it was the Viper that did it. So what does he do in this split second? He makes the decision, I'm going to go murder Wizzy with this shit.
Mm-hmm.
He runs off, finds Wizzy, walks out and starts talking trash out loud about Wizzy as if Wizzy couldn't hear him to get Wizzy to jump him and steal his bottle of Viper from him. But Bert interferes and saves him, and while they're down, Wizzy grabs a pipe and cracks Bert over the head. And Freddy begs Wizzy, please, Wizzy, don't drink my Viper, anything but that. So Wizzy takes a big old swig, and Freddy starts laughing maniacally as Wizzy starts to melt before him. Wizzy backs up into the wall, and he's glopping and melting and sticks to the wall, and this looked great too.
Yeah, it was pretty. It's pretty legit. I think this is
gross.
This is the showcase scene for the movie. It's like whenever people talk about this movie, they talk about this melt.
Yeah. So he glops down into a messy pile. Freddy makes sure that Bert's okay before running back to the liquor store. The owner of the store, curiosity finally gets to him, and he takes a little sip of Viper. And just as Freddy gets there, the owner shambles out into the street, and melts into sweet and sour sauce all over the sidewalk.
His asshole's pouring out of his pant legs.
Yeah.
Every person's composed of a different color substance. They all have a unique color when they melt.
Now, is that guy the director?
Oh, I don't know.
Is he?
I think it is.
We'll have to look into it.
Maybe it is.
I think it is.
So Freddy sees this and runs off. Back at the junkyard, Bronson is carving a new knife out of Bill's femur.
With another knife.
I was going to say, this reminded me of Dwight in The Office. He's using a knife to carve another knife.
Takes a knife to make a knife.
So, some other hobos come in, and they present Bronson with a bottle of Viper as tribute. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kevin and Wendy are getting handsy with each other, and Bronson's about to take a drink when his garbage woman grabs the bottle from him and accuses him of never sharing anything with her. So she takes a swallow and immediately starts to rip her tits off.
Talk about the wrong time to take a stand.
So that happens. She explodes in a geyser of green and yellow slime as her torso lays screaming on the hood of a car. Kevin and Wendy go into the office and start to have their little doing it session when Bronson bursts into the room because he sees them going in there. He attacks Kevin and Kevin runs. Bronson stalks his prey through the factory. I don't know what all this is.
I don't know what it is.
And he kills a random mechanic while he's searching for Kevin. Freddy comes to his brother's help and throws a bottle of Viper into Bronson's face, and it bursts and starts to melt his face off a little bit. So it's just from touch. You don't even have to consume it. He runs Freddy down and starts slamming him into the ground. Wendy tries to pull him off of him, but Bronson tosses her aside. Kevin gets knocked over and angles a big canister of air or something. Gas. It's just a big... It's right out of a video game. You're going to shoot one of those canisters, you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
He gets a good beat on him, knocks the top off of it, sends it flying like a missile towards Freddy and Bronson. I'm finding it a hard way to describe this because it just blasts through Bronson, and there's like this big... His head and most of his chest is just gone.
It's fucking great, man. It's so radical. And like the shot they use too, like, so there's a shot that's framed like directly through like his chest hole.
Yeah.
And there's blood spraying out of everywhere, and his head is in the background falling in slow motion, like just right down in between like the sides of the hole. It was just like
beautiful.
I took a sip of wine when I was watching that.
Somebody knew what they were doing.
They really did.
So his decapitated head / torso lay on the ground as Wendy runs by. She jumps over it just enough so that his head could glance up and get a peek up her skirt and give a little smile right before finally dying.
Oh, man. What a trashy movie, man.
She runs to Kevin, and the movie ends. But we get a little credit sequence as Nick has the doorman tied up with a couple of his goons. And so he's threatening the doorman. The doorman's trying to talk his way out of it, but it doesn't work. So Nick's about to beat him to death when they find a bottle of Viper in the guy's pocket. So Nick toasts to the doorman and takes a swig. He collapses on the floor out of camera, and you hear him screaming and melting. And then the doorman starts letting the one-liners fly.
It was nice.
It's so good, man. It's like the best mid-credits sequence like I've ever seen.
Yeah, take that, Marvel.
Yeah, eat shit.
So, and at the end of all these witty one-liners, you hear Nick will give one last insult to the doorman, and it streams flawlessly into a song that sounds like Tony Darrow made up on the goddamn spot.
It was like a version of My Way, right?
Of My Way, but it's like, you piece of shit. What did you do to me? I'm melted on the floor. Hey, fuck you there, guy.
Which I must say is he's a lyrical genius, and I have nothing but respect for the man, and just a beautiful song composition all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, I've been bumping that track on the regular since we saw this movie.
What's this? I'm starting to ooze. What's this shit you made me drink, you little fuck?
And oh my god, I just love the doorman is so funny. He's like,
he's like, so I guess I'm the Don now, right?
He's like, Nick the Dick, it's running down your leg now.
Yeah. You kiss the ring, motherfucker. Yeah, he just had nothing but shit to say then.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
What a way to end the Vomit Comet with a song.
It was all worth it.
Like, this movie was, look, this is by far, I kept thinking about that Romero review that he gave on it, that it's just deplorable and horrible and offensive. Like, it was all those things, but it was surprisingly well put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, surprisingly funny. Because, like, a lot of times people try to make movies where they really lean on just being offensive, and that's supposed to be funny, but, like, they
mean like the fucking suckling?
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, they actually made jokes, and they made sequences that were, like, intended to be funny and were funny.
No, this movie worked. Like,
yeah.
It just happened to be.
It's got no structure.
To be absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got no story and none of that, but.
Yeah, I gotta say, I can watch Bert shamble through that plate glass window over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be just as funny every time.
Yeah, there was just a lot of stuff, like, and the way the dialogue was delivered was really interesting. It was like a Robert Altman movie with, like, people talking over each other, and, like, you can't catch all of it the first time through. So that was really cool, and I don't know, it's like the best Troma movie that Troma never made. It's like everything that Troma aspires to be, but never really hits.
I don't know if you can hear this on the recording, but I got some hail coming through.
No, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit that out, so sorry, folks. We got some weather here.
Okay. Yeah, so the credits, there was some stuff in the credits, some stuff that I thought was kind of funny. So there's a credit for Melted Businessman, Exploding Derelict, Receptive Whore in Van, Other Whores in Van.
Okay, because there was that one that was kind of into Wizzy.
Yeah.
Viet Cong Vampires, and The Perverted Rottweiler.
What?
I don't know, some dog that did something.
I don't remember that. Are they crediting the dog in his dream?
In his dream?
I don't know. Maybe.
Who knows? I don't remember that part.
I watched this thing like 2 weeks ago, so I don't really remember.
True. This is true.
Oh, Lord. All right. So it's time to find out for once and all. Will John win a special month?
Oh my God.
It is tied up.
It is a lot of pressure.
It is tied up 6-6. It's anybody's game. Blake, bring on the questions.
All right. Question 1. What does Bert call his homemade hooch?
Oh, man.
Well, then I won't do the second part, since it seems like y'all didn't know that. Y'all ain't gonna know the second one. Let's see. I gotta choose from all these ones that I got. All right, which Avengers are featured in the Tire Hut? How many... Oh, this is question 3, sorry. How many people died from something other than drinking Viper?
Ooh.
I gotta go through. I'm trying to find ones that y'all might actually know. Question 4. How long was the girlfriend vomiting in the alley? They mentioned the time on it. That? Yes, they did.
Man.
And a really hard one. When they were cooking inside the tire hut, what was the glaze on the duck?
What? When were they cooking duck?
With all the groceries he went and got. You're too worried laughing about that paper bag scene. Those were the easiest questions out of all my questions, by the way.
I'm curious as to what the second question for the hooch was, because I've got details on the hooch. I just didn't know what they called it something.
Well, we can go over that later. All right, so question number 1. What does Bert call his homemade hooch?
No idea.
Gasoline?
It's called Sneaky Pete.
Jeez.
What was my second question?
Avengers.
Oh, yeah. Which Avengers are featured in the tire hut?
It was the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man.
Yeah, I got, were there only 2? I got Spider-Man and the Hulk, but I also have Iron Man. I thought maybe.
I didn't see Iron Man, but I'll give it to both of you. Because, I mean, y'all got it. Was the next one the vomiting?
The number of people.
Oh, number of people. How many people died from something other than drinking Viper?
I'm going to say 4.
I got 5.
Boy, Chase can guess like a motherfucker. It is 4.
Really? I think I...
Yep.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure it's 4.
Who was your 5, John?
The woman, the drunk woman?
The drunk woman?
Yeah.
The nerd through the windshield?
Yeah.
Right.
Bronson?
Right.
Bill?
Yeah. That's all I got.
There's the guy that Bronson kills when he's chasing after...
Oh,
that's true.
That is true. That's 5. Oh. Well, there you go. A little changing of the tide there. And,
John's ahead.
Yeah, he is.
Oh my God.
And what was the glaze on the duck?
You skipped the question.
I did?
The amount of time vomiting.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
How long was the girl for vomiting in the alley?
I got 20 minutes.
I'm going to say a half an hour.
20 minutes?
Oh my God.
That's it. It's over. It's over. You don't even need to do the last one.
Oh, you guys.
Holy shit.
The impossible happened.
It did. Well, anyway, the glaze on the duck was car wax.
Wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah, and the follow-up to the homemade hooch thing was, what does Sneaky Pete protect you from?
I don't have that.
I don't know.
Because he said, you drink Sneaky Pete, protects you from tetanus, whooping cough, and VD.
I didn't get any of that. Never mind.
Holy shit.
Oh, well, John, the Erotonomicon is yours.
I'm thoroughly disappointed. There's nothing to stop Neil Breen now.
Oh, man.
Well,
oh my God, you're right.
Well, if that's what his weapon is.
The Breen Destiny?
He doesn't even know. This was unprecedented.
I know.
We weren't prepared for this.
He didn't even think it was going to happen.
I didn't. I totally didn't. I said over text earlier today that I was going to lose, for sure.
Well,
there you go.
All right, well, now I got to seriously think about what my weapon needs to be.
Yeah, you do. We also need to figure out what we're watching next.
Yes. Okay. So, going into this, I forgot that I had to do a movie pick.
As is tradition.
I almost texted you to remind you.
So, at the 11th hour here, about 20 minutes before we started recording, I was scrambling. And as always happens whenever you're scrambling for a movie pick, you find like 9 new ones that you would love to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was tough trying to pick one, but I narrowed it down. I decided this is the one we're doing. So we're going to kick off season 5 with an action flick.
Nice.
A little movie from 1983 starring the one and only Richard Harrison.
Oh.
Called Fireback.
I haven't looked at this one. Is this the one with that insane gun?
Yes.
Okay.
5.8 on IMDb, 3 stars on Amazon, 90 minutes long. Directed by Teddy Page, who also directed Blood Ring, Blood Chase, Blood Hands, Battle Geese, and Blood Ring 2.
Jesus Christ.
Synopsis. A weapons expert is sent to Vietnam to demonstrate a new weapon he has just invented. The weapon he just invented is tantamount to the gun that Moe invents on The Simpsons. This is how you turn one gun into 5 guns. But he's captured by the Viet Cong and imprisoned in a POW camp. He's rescued not long afterwards, but when he returns home, he finds that his wife has been kidnapped, and he's been set up for a string of crimes he didn't commit. What a bad weekend. He determines to find out what's going on and who's behind it. Plot keywords: Vietnam, male-female relationship, hand grenade, samurai sword, ninja, Asian man, karate chop, kung fu, ninjutsu, rocket launcher, missing wife, sex and hotel. I like this rainbow of Asian culture we get with samurai sword, ninja, karate chop, kung fu,
right.
ninjutsu. It's all over the damn place.
Vietnam.
Sex and hotel room.
Reviews. Not one of Richard Harrison's better films. One of the finest action movies ever made.
Hey!
And a real crowd pleaser. This is another one of those movies where it was made in the Philippines and everything is dubbed. Whether or not the actor was actually speaking English or not, it's been redubbed and it looks fantastic.
Wonderful.
Nice. Yeah, I'm into it.
So, I mean, and I had a bunch of other ones, and I have to say, I found one movie that I seriously considered doing, but I didn't. And I'm going to talk about it because I don't think we should do it. But this,
I'm about to say, if you were going to pick it, you should have picked it today before John even knew that he would have a weapon in his hand.
Well, this movie is would have given Swamp Ape a run for its money.
Oh.
And I mean that in every sense of the way. It even has a similar scene to what made Swamp Ape famous.
What, a girl eating cupcakes?
It was a movie I found called Monsters of Carnage, Dino Beast.
Oh my god.
And it's literally a bunch of college kids go out to the woods for research, just like Swamp Ape.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, the lead is this hunky, muscular guy who's running around in his underwear the whole movie, just like in Swamp Ape.
Nice.
Was it produced by Holly Ward Pictures or whatever?
Holly Ward. And there's a scene where the monster captures a girl, and there's a close-up shot of you-know-what happening.
Hostage negotiations?
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So there's no way this is happening in another movie adjacent.
Some dinosaur like finger blasts the girl?
No, you see.
Oh, you see his Dino Dong?
Yeah.
You actually had a chance to have a movie where you can actually say reptile or rectile. and you decided not to do it.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, Chase.
I wanted to be the bigger man and not sink to that level.
Not bigger than that dinosaur stick, though.
But I do have another movie that's along the same lines of quality that I'm going to save. But I don't know now. It's gonna be tough. We gotta bait this movie out of John first.
Yeah.
And who knows who he's going to do it to, because we've both given him plenty of reason to.
Now it's like you have to, whenever you give out your movie pick, you have to act like you're not interested in it.
Yeah, I'd be like,
Yeah,
because as soon as you're excited about it, he's going to take it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I feel the power coursing through my veins.
I've never felt so like intimidated. I guess it's like, oh shit, now it can happen to me. Like, it's all fun and games until it happens to you. You know?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do though?
Well, I never wanted to do that to you. Chase always told me to.
Yeah, that's exactly how that worked.
Yep.
Oh man, this is exciting.
The possibilities.
It's limitless possibilities. Well, like actually quite limited, but it's exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, you need to just pick an actor or a director or something and go with it. We had the Sword of Homans for Godfrey Ho.
Yep.
I know we threw around some kind of a Cameron Mitchell themed weapon at some point.
Yeah, we didn't have a clever name.
I'd also like to point out that I want to point out that Chase has taken away more of your picks than I have.
Oh, I know. I got a list.
All I can hear is that fucking cocky voice coming across the headphones and saying, "All right, motherfuckers." And I'd be like, what do you mean I can't watch my Weekend at Bernie's with Bigfoot? And it's going to be terrible.
Well, it is what it is, and we got to live with it, Blake.
Yeah.
It
Way
was
to go,
bound to
Chase.
happen at some point.
It's all your fault.
You wrote the questions.
You shouldn't have let it get that close.
You also watched that movie today, right?
Last
This
night.
is true.
Yeah. Well, it would have helped if the person writing the questions knew the correct answers in the first place.
I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Well, I've certainly done that myself. So
At least it was rectified during the show and not after, because I know how much we hate when that happens.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden, people start talking about asterisks and what's not instead of just saying, "Yeah, it's the right fucking thing." You know what, John? Take out his fucking pick.
yeah, we'll see. I don't really have a plan right now, so we'll see. It's gonna get crazy.
I can tell you now, I can already see it. There's always a point in every season where I just become totally demoralized and don't give a shit anymore. I'm be ahead by 10 points, and you're gonna take away a movie from me and be like, "Fuck it, what's the point?"
Give up?
Yeah, I'm done. I don't know what you're gonna do.
Or we just need to just come at the next season with just the most unwatchable movies back to back to back, just to force him to use it at some point, just to save himself.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking.
Like go beyond scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Make season 5 just the worst thing we've ever done.
We'll have to make it as if we're trying to destroy our own podcast, and the only way to save it is for John to use that stupid weapon. And then we can go back to business as usual of fucking over John.
The way God intended.
Oh, Lord. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for listening. You can drop us a review on iTunes. We would so much appreciate that. You can find us online at facebook.com/Garbage Theater, Twitter at Garbage_Theater, and on Instagram at Garbage_Theater. If you have a movie pick for us, send it our way. We're about to start season 5.
Yep.
The worse, the better. Send them to us. We got to get this thing out of John. So, you can send that to any of our social media channels, or you can email us directly at garbagetheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Final thoughts on the Vomit Comet.
Yeah, it definitely ended better than it started.
And let's never do it again.
No.
Yeah, this is probably just a one-time deal. But,
It was no Shark Month.
Oh, Shark Month's going to be refreshing after next season.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. get it.
No, it was. Look, honestly, it was good, but I think it went down a road we weren't expecting.
It started on a road we weren't expecting.
Well, I'm glad we got at least one solid watch out of it. I mean, like this is probably, like I said, I think I mentioned this before. This is probably one of my favorite things that we've ever watched.
No, it was a good one. It was just gross, but it was good.
Yeah.
It got better over the course of the month, but it started off as if you woke up and you're on the wrong side of the road, and there's the headlights coming right at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I tried to order them in a way that, sort of built to this, but...
You did good. You did good, John.
All right.
Well, that's that. We will see you next time when we start Season 5 with Fireback. See you then, folks.